on this call with you. We want to welcome you to the Conversations on Success, where leaders in Organo share insight on how to grow your Organo business successfully. We are Drs. Jarrod and Melissa Brennan. We are from Rochester, Minnesota. My husband is both a chiropractor and nutrition practitioner. I am also a chiropractor, nutrition practitioner, and a certified acupuncturist. We also own a successful practice, chiropractic and nutrition practice, but besides that, we also homeschool our 5 children. So April marked 2 years in Organo. We were involved with Organo for about 1 year before we decided to jump into the business. When we made the decision to do this, we went Sapphire in 6 weeks and Ruby 8 months after that. I think for the most part, the reasons we were so successful is because no one told us we couldn't be. We didn't have all these preconceived notions of what network marketing was, or even what Organo was for that matter. Our main motivation to be involved with the business was to help people with their health. There was this sense of urgency that people needed to know about Organo. We pushed down all the barriers people have to overcome in this industry because we were so focused on our why. So tonight's call is going to be to discuss how to find solutions. Our goal is to teach you how to be a problem solver and help you find solutions to real barriers in the industry. Not only will we be discussing problems you are facing with your prospects, but barriers we as distributors face as well. Let's get started on discussing simple solutions to the most common problems people face. So, I already had the opportunity to talk to some of our downline and some of our upline and ask them, if you were to ask some of the leaders in the industry what kind of problems they were facing when they first got started with Organo and what barriers they had to overcome. The first one we got was about sampling. So, with this question, I asked, what about sampling did you guys want to know about? And they said, well, there's times where people don't want to be sampled. There's times where people actually say no. And there's times where I give somebody a sample and they don't ever try it. And I follow up with them and they just say, no, I haven't tried it yet. And they don't understand why they have not tried it yet. So I realized the other day, Jarrod, that we had about a 99% success rate when it comes to sampling. And I had to kind of brainstorm why were we so successful with that. So the phrase that Jarrod and I both use when we sample, before we send a sample out, I simply message somebody, if I sent you a sample of healthy coffee, would you try it? The if I, would you statement. Again, if I sent you a sample of healthy coffee, would you try it? My main source of messaging people is Facebook Messenger, possibly text, but for the most part I'm doing everything on Facebook Messenger. 1, I know when the person has read it. 2, I can just stay in communication with them and it's just quick and easy. I can honestly say that with all the success we've had in the Organo business, that is our number 1 tool of communication. I probably can count on the number, I would say on one hand, how many times I've sat down with a person face to face to discuss Organo. We just don't have the time. We just don't have the energy to do that. So again, if I sent you a sample of healthy coffee, would you try that? Now, I have to give credit where credit is due. I did not make that statement. I actually learned it from network master himself, Mr. Eric Worre. And I was watching one of his videos and he taught us how to do this business professionally. Most of us go through this business and we're amateurs at it. We don't know what to do. So all of a sudden we just make something up and usually it falls flat on its face. And so Mr. Eric Worre says the if I, would you statement to anything you're doing in this business. Now, notice what I say, but notice more what I don't say. I don't say, hey, try these samples. I don't share a ton of testimonials when I'm trying to sample. I don't make any claims. I don't share any research. I don't even claim how much money you could possibly make by sharing this. What I do say though is if I, would you? If I sent you a sample of healthy coffee, would you try it? What you're doing there is you're getting somebody to commit. The answer is either yes or no. They're not going to ask all these questions at this point. You're just simply asking them if they want a sample. 99% of the time, we get a yes commitment. Now, you have a reason to follow up with that person. You're going to send them that sample. You're going to give them that sample. You're going to get their commitment. They're going to try it. And now you have a reason to follow up with them. These samples are your bread and butter in this industry. Not many other industries actually have samples. Now, for example, let's say that you're planting a tree. You need a seed, right? These samples are your seed. Now, if you are planting a seed, you also need to follow up. You need to nurture that tree. You need to make sure it's getting enough water. You need to make sure it's getting enough sunlight for it to grow. What most people do in this industry is they hand over a sample and then they think they're done. They assume that the person is going to follow up with them. They're going to come running to their door. They're going to say, I want more coffee. They're going to say, I want an account. They're going to say they want a gold pack. In a perfect world, that would be exactly what we would hope for. But unfortunately, that's usually not the case. The key is in the follow-up, and that yes commitment that they gave you is exactly what you need to follow up with. Now, my goal is to speak to at least one person a day about organo. That does not have to be your goal if that seems too intimidating, but my goal is to at least speak to one person a day. The samples are my most effective tool. They're the most effective way to share organo. Now, technically, the gurus in network marketing will say to make a list of about 100 people that you know so that you can keep going with the sample. It just keeps the momentum. I didn't do that personally. I know that Jarrod didn't do that personally. All I did is I just paid attention to what people were saying and doing already. If I saw a friend come in with a cup of coffee, that gave me an opportunity to share with them a healthier option. People already feel guilty about drinking coffee. So if I can share with them there's a healthier option, it makes them feel so much better about their habit. If I saw a post come across on Facebook of somebody saying, hey, I have X, Y, and Z condition. I have this diagnosis. I have this problem. Does anyone have any solutions to help? That is my opportunity to reach out to that person either on that post thread or personally and let them know that I do have something to help. They were already asking for it, so it's just a nice, easy transition to be able to help them. I found most people sample one or two people and they put all their eggs in that basket. They're hoping those one or two people are going to turn into accounts, and they focus all their attention into it. Now, let me share with you a little analogy. As I mentioned, Jarrod and I are from Minnesota. Well, Minnesota happens to be the land of 10,000 lakes. What most people do in the summer is they go on these lakes. And what are they doing on these lakes? They're actually fishing. So in the summer, we go out on a boat, we throw out our fishing pole. We typically have one fishing pole, and we're basically trying to fish amongst this one school of fish. And we're hoping that at least one of those will bite. Now, I'm 40 years old. I've never been ice fishing before, but New Year's Eve, I actually went on my first ice fishing trip. We went with our family, my cousins up in North Dakota, and I was kind of outstanded. I was totally taken back by this what they were doing on the ice. What my cousin had done is in this ice house, he had cut 8 different holes. And in those holes, he had 8 different fishing poles. And I thought, this is brilliant. Why just sit around one pole hoping for one fish? Why not cut 8 holes in the ice, put 8 fishing poles in the ice, and basically fish in 8 different schools? And so I kind of thought this is a wonderful analogy for those of us in network marketing, that we constantly want to be casting our nets. We constantly want to be fishing amongst different schools of fish. Because what's going to happen is maybe one pole isn't going to get a bite. The school of fish are just going to keep swimming and we're not going to get anything. But maybe holes 2 and 3 and 4 start nibbling, and then they start biting, and then one all of a sudden takes the hook and we catch a fish. So the whole point is constantly be trying to fish amongst many different people, trying to get one of those accounts, get one of those fish to bite. but not just put all your eggs in one basket into one fishing pool. So hopefully you can understand that analogy. You know, the other thing that I have to say to sampling is if you don't have any product on hand, it makes it really difficult to be able to share a sample. And if you have a sample and that person loves the coffee and you don't have any on hand to actually sell them, then that becomes a problem too if they're not ready to get their own account. So hopefully you've learned a little bit about sampling tonight and just some of the successful things you can do. As I mentioned, if I would you, that's probably the most powerful statement that's turned 99% of our sampling into accounts. Now, moving on to problem number 2. Problem number 2, at least on our team, we typically have we probably attract more health-minded, more wellness-minded people that are concerned about what they're putting in their body. And one problem that we've run into on our team is when people look at some of the ingredients in Organo, they turn away. They say, I don't want to drink this. This has sugar in it. This has dairy in it. This has food additives in it. I don't put that stuff in my body. Why would I try these samples? And why would you endorse that as a healthcare practitioner? So if you don't mind sharing with our OG family how different solutions that we have to overcome that.
Sure will. Thanks. Good evening, OG. Welcome to the call. As we get into things, like Melissa had said, we have been into Organo now for just over 2 years, actually. In the first 9 months to a year, we did absolutely nothing with the products that had sugar in them. So it was just one of those things from a health mindset and standpoint that, you know, we just can't push that out into our patients and our friends and things because we're so against the sugar side of things. Well, that's honestly where the brilliance of Organo has taken that by the horns and already way ahead of where we're at, right? They're already way far advanced on that process to show, you know what, the sugar may be in there, but we offset it with the brilliance by adding a little bit more Ganoderma to help you metabolize that a little bit better, take the stress off the liver, take the stress off the pancreas, different things that way. So it was a big barrier for us. I know that's an issue for a lot of people, and it was even for some of our friends and family and patients as well. They thought maybe we had sold our soul to the devil in that regard because now we're telling people that they should be consuming some of these things. Honestly, no, we're not telling them that they should consume it. If they're not, we're just saying we have lots of friends and family that are already doing that. Why can't we get them a better version of that to be able to start making a transition in their health where they're at? One thing we did, or I did in the process, one thing that I'll say on that as we get into it is Melissa doesn't drink coffee. So why is she so successful at this business? It's because she's, like she said, she's listening, she's hearing, she's sharing these products because they know she knows that they're better for the people that are drinking it already, and it's just going to help them improve their health as they move on down the road. So it's one of those things. But as we get into it, I went through and did a little study, and I had done my blood sugars, tested my blood sugars. I drank a mocha. It took, you know, half hour, 45 minutes to an hour to drink it because I made it really hot. And then as I finished, I checked my blood sugars again about 15 minutes after I was done drinking it, and my blood sugars were exactly the same. So that right there told me that the benefit of that herb, the Ganoderma, in it is helping you offset those sugars that are in the products. Not only the sugars, but some people are really sensitive to the dairy, and the beauty of the Ganoderma is it helps that process as well, so you don't get that inflammatory reaction from it as well. When you get into looking at the sugar, Time magazine a few years back said that that was one of the biggest triggers in disease and health with our bodies, right? So when we look at all disease pathways, we start looking at the inflammation. Well, sugar is one of the biggest triggers. And so that was another barrier for us, but the beauty of the products and the smarts of Mr. Chua and those putting these products together, they already had us outsmarted in that process, knowing the benefits that the Ganoderma has in the products. So right there, it's just having that research and having that understanding for those patients that, or those friends or those family that question that process of the sugars. We wanted to take that step a little further than when we got into it. And I have an aunt that's diabetic. And so we asked, will you let us do a little experiment on you? So she agreed, but she agreed to only use the hot chocolate. Well, for me, that was an automatic no, right? She's already got blood sugar components. She's already has issues. She says, well, if you want me to do the study, I'm going to do it with hot chocolate. Well, we had her do the hot chocolate test. And a few days later, we followed up with her. And as we got into it, she had said that her blood sugars went up 20 to 30 points after drinking the hot chocolate. And my jaw just about hit the floor. I'm like, what? Are you serious? And so as I thought about it, I'm like, she's already struggling with blood sugar. She's already having these problems metabolizing that in the first place. So a 20 to 30 point rise wasn't really a big deal in the big scheme of things. But she said normally when she would have a hot chocolate, it would go up 80 to 90 points on her blood sugars. So just that little bit does make a big effect in there. The other follow-up after that was the next month, we implemented just the black coffee with that along with her hot chocolate. She had a follow-up with her doctor at 3 months from that point, and her hemoglobin A1C, her blood sugar markers that show kind of time on how high the sugars have been, were over a full point lower just by adding those products in. I know she didn't change her diet. I know she didn't change her medication. On top of that, she was actually sick for a few weeks before she went in, which would help increase her blood sugars a little bit more, but her blood sugar, her A1C actually still dropped over a full point in that process. So just another testimony from my perspective on the brilliance of the products and why people don't want to drink them or try them is really their own barrier in the process. So we got to get them the information. We got to get them to understand that this has already been well thought through in that process. You know, when we get into one thing I like to talk about is our colleague, Dr. Sachin Patel. He had said a quote in one of his talks, and I'm going to read it so I don't do injustice to us, but it says, you can be a purist and only help a few people. Or you can meet them where they're at. Get them drinking a healthier version of the coffee they love, and once they start feeling better, they will be motivated to make healthier changes in their life. That right there is the brilliance of really where we had to struggle our way to get through. And he hit the nail right on the head with that. If we can't meet people where they're at and do a little bit of education, a little bit of nudging, a little bit of follow-up consistently, you just lose them, and all of a sudden that may be a big fish that got away. I saw someone had noted on the Facebook group, it says, you got to be looking for that big fish. Well, you know what? You never know which fish is going to be big and come and bite. And as you get someone to nibble and get on there, the next one that comes, the big fish, might come actually get the little fish and overtake it. So you just never know. You got to keep pushing. You got to keep searching. You got to keep sharing. You got to keep educating on that process, because right now there's more information out there on the sugar, and that is one thing. Sugar is becoming more bad. People are more aware of it, that it's not good for their health. Well, the more they know, the more they can make a good decision on that process of what's best for them. And if it's already a health benefit with Ganoderma in the products, it becomes a no-brainer. So with that being said, we talk about that sharing, and we talk about the sugars, and the next thing that we come across in the process is, you know what? I hear from patients, I hear from family, I hear from friends, well, I just don't like selling things. Yeah, we don't like selling things either. But as we get into this, what's your response when you get into that, when you get answered that or asked that question?
This is actually my favorite. Problem number 3, I can't sell anything. So when people say they can't sell anything, I say, great. No one likes to sell anything, and no one likes to be sold to. So in our office, we've coined the phrase, we share because we care. We truly feel that God has called us to help others with obtaining better health. I get that might not be your calling, but if you care about others and you know that Organo can help, you have an obligation to share it with them. Now, here's the kicker. When you share it with them, do not attach yourself to the outcome. I know that's really, really difficult for us to do, because when we share it with someone, we know how good it is for them. So we're expecting them to come back and say, yes, I want this. I want to be involved with your business. But that's not always the case. If they say yes to Organo, great. If they say no to Organo, great. And I know that's a paradigm shift, and it might be blowing your minds right now that I even said that. But again, if they say yes to organo, that's awesome. Nurture that. Follow up with that. Make sure they're educated. Make sure they get involved. Make sure they're using the product. But if they say no, great. Move on. I feel like when people know better, they should do better, but that's not always the case. Sometimes this whole business is about the timing. And even for Jarrod and I, it was about timing. We were introduced to organo many years ago, and we said no, we weren't interested. And I'm thinking, if we would have gotten involved 6 years ago, where would we be at now? But it's all about timing. And we were ready 2 years ago when we said yes to the opportunity. So it's all about timing for the people you're prospecting too. I've had multiple no's, and then some of those eventually came back around and said yes. So just be patient with those people. Wait until it's ready for their timing to actually be able to jump on board. Now, as Jarrod mentioned, if anyone has an excuse to not succeed in this business, it's me. I don't even drink coffee. I don't even drink tea. I'm on this call tonight as a leader in the industry, as a Ruby in organo, and I've never had 1 cup of organo coffee. No latte, no mocha. I've never even had 1 cup of organo tea. How is that even possible? And what I tell people is how that's possible is because it's not about me. Did you hear what I said? It's not about me. It's about my family members. It's about my friends. It's about my patients. I see a need, and organo is a solution to that need. For example, I'm going to shout out to my cousin Amanda in North Dakota. She was diagnosed with leukemia, and she has 2 little ones at home. She's got a beautiful family. And I told her, I said, basically, healthy coffee or no coffee, you got to do something. So she started on the coffee. 3 months after she started on the coffee, her leukemia numbers dropped, and she was just touching remission. She then decided to start on the spore capsules and other capsules in organo. And 3 months later, her leukemia was literally in remission. Now, what if I would have said no to this opportunity because I didn't drink coffee? I get colleagues, I get friends and families that say no all the time to me because they don't drink coffee. And I say, great, good. It's not even about you. I'm sampling in case you did like it, but here's the thing. You know people that drink coffee. You know people that drink tea. Who are those people that need to hear about this if you're not going and willing to actually drink this yourself? So I just think, what if I would have said no to that opportunity? She's now in complete remission, which is such a blessing. She gets more time with her kids. Do you know what that means? You can't put a price tag on that. And so I just think of hundreds of stories, hundreds of testimonies that we've shared with people, and then it's changed their life for the better. Now, I'm going to give you permission to impinge a little bit with people. I know people, when they care about somebody and the first thing they say is no, they back off. I'm going to ask you to pour a little salt in that wound, to go a little bit deeper, to find a little bit better reason to keep bugging that person in a gentle way. Don't have to be rude, but just go a step further and impinge. Remember what I said to her. At first, she really wasn't interested. And I said, healthy coffee or no coffee. You don't get a choice anymore. Your health is too important, and I'm not going to sit back and watch it completely fail with 2 beautiful children. And she said yes. And so had I not actually pushed a little bit more, I'm not sure if she would have tried it. Now, the other fear of sharing with others is sometimes the no that we're going to get. I've literally seen people buy a bronze pack, a silver pack, and a gold pack. And literally after a few people said no to them, they quit. They literally quit, in my opinion, before they even got started. Now, we were at an organo event, and one of the Crown ambassadors went on stage, and he had what I would say one of the best analogies I've ever seen. What he did is he held up this $100 bill, and he held it up to the crowd, and he said, who wants this $100 bill? And everybody's hands raised. Now, there was only a few people that were brave enough to actually go up on stage and try to grab this out of his hand. And he looked at one of the gentlemen who was aggressive enough and said, you had enough ambition. I'm going to give you this $100 bill when I get done with this analogy. And what he said was, everybody wants this $100 bill because it's valued at $100. And he said, okay, sir, I'm going to give it to you soon. But let me just do something here quick. And he did this to it. And he crumpled it up. And then he opened it back up and he said, are you sure you still want this? It's all crinkled. It's all wrinkled. It's probably, I don't know, that you'd even still want it. And he asked him and he said, do you still want it? And he said, absolutely. He said, okay, I'm going to take it a step further. So he wrinkled it up again and he threw it on the ground and he stomped on it. By now it's all dirty. It's all muddied. He picks it up. He opens it back up again and he says, are you sure you still want this? And the guy says, absolutely. And he said, why do you want this? He goes, because it's still worth $100. Now, what he said after was the most profound. He said, we are this $100 bill. There are times where we get crumpled up. There's times where we get pushed down. There's times where we even get stepped on. And we devalue ourselves. We think of ourselves as failures. We walk away from a great opportunity because a couple people crumpled us up or stepped on us. I'm here to tell you we are worth so much more than this $100 bill. We have so much more value. And just because somebody says no, because it's, honestly, that's on them. Your job was just to get them the information. You did that. You did your job. If they say no to it, that's on them. Wash your hands of it. But you are much more valuable than this $100 bill. So I want you to remember that the next time you see any money of any denomination, that you are much more valuable, and just a few no's does not devalue that at all. And so I hope that you guys can understand that. I want you guys to be focusing on your abilities and stop focusing on your disabilities. And if nobody's ever told you that you're valuable, let Jarrod and I be the first ones to actually say, you are more than valuable.
You're worth it.
You're absolutely worth it. Now, moving on to problem number 4. This is a very common question that I get not only from prospects that are thinking about doing the business, but from distributors that said yes to the opportunity to begin with. They bought a bronze pack, they bought a silver pack, they bought a gold pack, and they said, yes, I'm all in. And then all of a sudden they say, I don't have time to do this. So can you share a little bit on how we handled those barriers?
Yeah, so as we get into things, time becomes a big factor on everyone's schedule, right? We have 1,000 things going on every day. You know, we all still get the same 24 hours to do it in. But as we look at things, the process is if anybody doesn't have time, we look at ourselves as kind of the standard on that, right? We have a full-time business. We're seeing patients. We have 5 kids that 4 of them are in school. By the way, we homeschool all of them at this point. And now they're in activities and they're on the go, I feel like 7 days a week. So it's just one of those things, where can you slip this in? And that's just it. It's, if you use the analogy, compare that to a gym membership, right? You're paying that gym membership monthly, right? Every month. Here comes another $15 out. Great. You made it there once. And that one time, did that get you to lose the weight? Did that get you to improve your strength and health and metabolism? I don't think it did. But that $15 still kept coming out. Well, what happens if you just go one time and you get one no because someone, maybe they made the coffee wrong and they said no? You have to keep pushing. You have to keep going. You have to keep adding. Maybe it's 15 minutes here. Maybe it's 2 minutes here. And it's just a little follow-up message. But the reality is you just need to connect a little bit each day. As Melissa had said earlier in the process, it was something every day. One person, one comment, one message, one follow-up. And maybe that's one to each person, and it took you 10 minutes to follow up. Great, that's easy. Everybody can do that when they're laying in bed or they're sitting at a stoplight or they're waiting for their kids to come out of school. It's just a little bit of intention and motivation, because your why behind it is what's going to drive you to put the action steps in place to get where you want to be. If I can say one more thing on that process is, if you don't have a why, write it down. Think about it, ponder it, understand it. Because if you have a reason behind the actions that you're doing, you're going to continue to do it until you accomplish it. It's hard to buck someone from their dream or their why or their reason they're doing something in that process. That little no means nothing because they have a bigger understanding of what they're trying to accomplish. So if I can impart anything on that is, write down your why. Put it out there. Let people know what your why is. Why are you doing this? Is it to help people get healthy? Is it to help people understand the benefits of, you know what, you can have more time to spend with your kids because you can earn a little income on the side? Is it to help you pay down bills? What's your why? What's your reason? There's a little motivation as the $100 bill comes back into it. This motivates a lot of people, but don't make that be the only reason, because as soon as you get a no, the money's not there to accept and to collect. Well, why keep going? So as we get into there, it's something simple. We ourselves, we probably put in less than 10 hours a week total combined. And she probably does 9.5 if there's 10. But most of mine just comes with observing. Honestly, as you see people come with a coffee, or you see someone, are you interested in trying a healthier cup? If I give you a sample, would you drink it? Right? If I would you again. It's just that little bit of information. It's trying to understand what their problems are, right? This is a call on problem solving. Well, if you have a solution and you're the only one that knows it, who are you helping? Nobody benefits if you don't start sharing just with one person a day. That's it, as we get into it. So the other part to the time factor is, as I look at things, is if people start asking you questions and you don't know the answers, plug into your upline, plug into your team, right? That little bit of information to help you accelerate your education with less time, it's priceless. We give a tremendous amount of credit and respect to Dr. Bob Rakowski because he steps up and goes above and beyond to help people understand the health benefits. And if you really want to know, he'll go through the whole mechanism of how it works and functions within the body. We can't do that by ourselves. You might if you have a biochemistry degree, but who has the time to sit down and go through all of that? Dr. Bob, we thank you immensely for that because it's accelerated and sped everything up in that process and our understanding in this time frame. So thank you. So I'm going to leave you with this as we get into it. What's your why? I encourage you to take a few minutes, maybe tonight after the call. I encourage you to spend some time thinking about it, sleep on it, pray about it. What's your why and your reason as to what motivates you to move forward with it? If you don't have that, you're just not going to continue to progress. And as soon as you get a few of those no's, you'll be just another statistic that falls off on what your dream really is. So as we get into that, time frame wise, how do you get to the next question that's popped up? How do we get people to mixers? How do we find the time to get them out of their busy life to show up, to listen to Dr. Bob, to listen to Dr. Sashin, to listen to all the other people that are on Conversations with Success, spending that time? How do we get them there to actually learn about it and educate themselves?
That's a really good question. And I can honestly say I had to think about this one. There really wasn't a secret sauce. There wasn't a special formula that we saw that really we were gaining so much success with mixers. I remember our very first event when Dr. Bob Rakowski came to the Minneapolis area. We are about an hour and a half from the Minneapolis area. And I just broke down every barrier to get there. And I invited everybody I knew. And that first event, when we decided to say yes to the Organo business, we had 16 people show up. And out of those 16 people, all 16 people got an account or bought a package that night. I was blown away. I thought, all I have to do to grow this business is get people in front of Dr. Bob Rakowski. So thank you, Dr. Bob. You were definitely an influence in helping us gain success right away. But from that point, we continued to take that momentum. And we've even hosted Dr. Bob. We said, if Dr. Bob is willing to come to Rochester, Minnesota, we're going to roll out this red carpet. In most of the events he's been to, we've literally had over 100+ people attend each of those events. Now, when people ask me, how did you do this? I literally said, I don't know. I honestly, I couldn't tell them an answer. But it dawned on me. I couldn't figure out why we were being so successful with this. And then all of a sudden the light bulb went up. The first thing that I have to say is I did the old-fashioned, if I would you statement. I said, if I invited you to a class on the health benefits of Organo, would you come? And again, most people would say, yeah, of course, I would love to hear about that. You know, so we would promote the event. We sent out some emails. We, put up some flyers. I was contacting people that were having success with Organo or anyone that I sampled and let them know. And this is what I shared with them. I said, we are going to be flying in a world-renowned chiropractor and nutritionist who's an expert in Organo. He's read over 800 of the 3,000 PubMed research articles. He sees both Olympic athletes and professional athletes. He's helped hundreds of thousands of people with their health. And I let them know all of these amazing attributes of Dr. Bob. He has an amazing heart. He wants to help the world. And you don't want to miss this event. Would you come to this event? And people would say yes. Now, what did I do to Dr. Bob? I praised him. I edified him. I put value on that class because people were trying to decide, do I give up an hour of my time to just go hear anyone? And I made sure that their time was going to be worth it. And I made sure Dr. Bob's time was going to be worth coming to Rochester. Now, I get that not all of us are lucky enough to have a Dr. Bob leading our mixers. But each of you, and I want you to start changing your mindset a little bit. Each of you are an expert on Organo. If somebody walks through your home or your office for the first time and they've never heard of it, that makes you an expert. So that's the best part of it. You know more than they do already. All you have to be is an article ahead of them. So regardless of whoever is leading your mixer, even if it's you, put a value to that class. Put a value to the person leading that class. Now, how do you actually put value to yourself if you don't feel like you can add any value? You need to invest in your number one asset. And who is that? That's you. Now, I know you didn't ask me to talk about events, but I think this is a good time for me to kind of interject how we became who we were. And that was from events. To see the value in yourself and the value in your product, events are where leaders are born. Events are where belief is instilled in you, where you are inspired, where you're motivated, where you set your goals and you figure out ways to reach them. You break down every barrier to make sure you hit those goals, where you develop your own personal skills and where you become a better version of yourself. Get to events. Now, with any other job, we need training. So why would we think we don't need training when we become co-owners of a multi-billion-dollar company? Many of us have worked for people our entire lives. When you become an owner, you need a whole new skill set that most of us were not gifted in. So we need to plug into events that train us on how to become leaders, on how to see ourselves as valuable, on how to treat this as a viable business, and to be around like-minded people. Our favorite place right now, we love being around our Organo family. We come back so inspired. We feel so loved. We feel so encouraged. We feel so blessed to have the team that we have. And you can't put a price tag on that. And just being around that atmosphere is so contagious. There's so much energy there. And when you're beat down by the rest of the world and you go plug into those events, you come back on this high, like you're on cloud 9. They're so worth it. So get to events. Get to your local events, and guess what? If there are no local events, guess who needs to start them? That's you. Get to your state events. If there's none of those, guess who gets to start those? And definitely get to your global events. Those are key. You get to hear from the best of the best, from the leaders in the industry, from those that are creating these products, from Mr. Bernie Chua himself and his vision. And what a gift that is to us. He could have kept this secret to himself and just said, I'm going to use reishi mushroom because I know it's going to help. But he shared this gift to us. And I think, he just gives credit to God, which I think is just a beautiful thing in and of itself. And he's just such an inspiration. So get to these events. Events are key. It is absolutely where Jarrod and I were created, in all success in all aspects of our life. These events are key. Now, I want to jump into one other problem here, and that is, I was commonly asked so Melissa, when you start to get downline, when you start to get people accounts, how do you know how to invest in people? Or how do you know when to stop investing in somebody that may not necessarily be doing a whole lot? I think this is a really, really, really important question. So, how do we know how to invest our time? Sometimes we feel like we're pushing people up a hill, and it becomes really, really, really difficult. Now, I want to give credit where credit is due. Miss Kelly Rakowski has played a key role in our success. And she was the main one that taught me how to use my time wisely. For example, I remember this one person that I was working with when she first signed on. And actually, she was one that I literally contacted so many times about being part of the industry. And the answer was always no, no, no. Well, finally, she said yes. And so that's another testimony to just being patient and just planting seeds and watering those seeds. Eventually, people will come back around and they'll grow. So she said yes, jumped in fully with a gold pack. And so a gold pack to me means you're ready to go. You are wanting to hit the ground running. You want to make it big. So you're going to put the work in to do that, is what I assumed. And so I put a lot of my time and energy into this person. And that person was not reciprocating that back. They weren't necessarily following up with Zoom calls. They weren't coming to mixers. They weren't doing a whole lot of action to get them successful. And they were just getting frustrated why this wasn't just growing on its own. And so I was spending a lot of time on this person who I thought had potential, but wasn't really doing much in the business. So what Kelly had told me, she started noticing that Jarrod and I were having a lot of success in the business. And she took notice to that. So there's another little tip there. If you want Dr. Bob and you want Kelly paying attention to you in our network and our team, just start creating some action, start creating some success. And I promise you, they will start knocking on your door. But what she told me was one of the most profound things when we started early on with our success. She told me to invest in people who deserve my time. And I'm going to say that again. She told me to invest in people who deserve my time. Now, I want that to sink in. For me, I actually had to let it sink in for a while. I literally had to let it just marinate because it sounded so selfish to me. What do you mean who deserve my time? Everybody deserves my time. And she said, no, that wasn't the point. Yes, of course, people deserve to be invested in. But in this business, they only deserve your time when you see them reciprocating things back. She wanted to help me see that people need to be coachable, people need to be teachable, and people need to be trainable. You see, I wanted it more for that person, and I wanted it more for a lot of my downline, but they didn't want it bad enough for themselves. And that was the part that she taught me. It was like this epiphany that went off in my head that they didn't deserve my time. So that was a hard thing for me because it was difficult. I wanted to invest in this person, but if they weren't willing to reciprocate back, I couldn't invest in them. So she told me why she invested in me was because I was coachable, I was teachable, and I was trainable. I so appreciate you, Kelly, because I don't know. I really give you so much credit for our success in Organo in really less than 10 months becoming rubies, because you invested in us, you saw the potential, and you pulled that out. And I'm glad that you did that. So thank you so much. And this goes to all of our upline, Jacob Rakowski, Dr. Bob, all of our Organo family, our mentors in upline, Lake Point Chiropractic, and all the doctors there, Dr. Dennis and Marianne, thank you so much. So I just want to say thank you to them. But when Kelly was working with me at the beginning of our success, when she said step, I stepped. When she said jump, I literally asked, how high, Kelly? And I did all of those things. And I started realizing I had to change my mindset. See, I was looking at her as the leader, but what she was trying to do was actually make me become a leader. I didn't realize everything she was passing on to me was just to make me a leader. So at some point, although I still plug into Kelly every once in a while, she really enabled me to be able to spread my wings and fly. And I guess that's what sapphires are, right? Once you get to that level, you're a leader in the industry and you really can spread your wings and fly because you have enough knowledge that you can start passing it on to others and you can become a leader in the industry. So what I had to do then is I had to get myself even more grounded. I had to get my time more conserved and realize, who am I actually going to be working with in this industry? So I started studying other mentors, and I encourage you as leaders in the industry, and consider yourself a leader. If you're on this call tonight and you've taken an hour out of your Sunday evening to be on this call, you are a leader. And so I started studying other mentors. I love, 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 love the contagious energy of the Nielsen women. I love you guys, and every time you speak, I'm literally hanging on to every word. And so I watched them, and I started saying, okay, how can I make myself that contagious energy that people want to be attracted to me, to hear me speak when I have something to say? I love the knowledge of Dr. Bob. Jarrod already has a shout out to Dr. Bob for all he's done for our team. The knowledge, this guy's like a walking encyclopedia. And so to just have an ounce of his knowledge imparted to us is such a blessing, to be able to help people think with how the reishi mushroom works in our body. The influence of Sachin Patel, wow, he is like blowing up this industry. And what I love about him is he just has this law of attraction, and people just cling to his energy and his motivation and his knowledge. And so I'm watching him and how he's doing things, and I'm taking bits and pieces and I'm taking notes behind the scene to say, how can I be like that? I've also seen the perseverance and the drive of Miss Diane Solano. Wow, what a testimony. As a single mama, just rocking this business because she had no choice. Like, what a motivation. So Miss Diane, we totally shout out to you and just say, you are such an inspiration to us. Somebody else in the industry, Jacob Rakowski. I mean, need I say any more? Such an inspiration and has such wisdom beyond his years. for literally being age 21 and being debt-free. That's such an inspiration and should be to all of the people that are wanting that for their own lives. And of course, I love Miss Nikki Idetta coming from Miss Hawaii there. The posture that you own, girl, is just amazing. And so, again, I hang on to all of these mentors. And of course, again, Kelly, I take what you've given me and Jarrod, and I say thank you. And I say that that's not going to stop here. We want the ability to see potential in people and mentor people like you did for us. And so I would say to Organo family, find somebody who you look up to in this industry. Find somebody who you can learn from that's doing really well in whatever skill set they have. Take notes, go behind the scenes, start implementing little tools you get from each of these people, and you would be astounded by the results you start to have. Now, I wanted to lead like these people, which meant I needed to duplicate these actions as a leader. And hopefully, to those of my downline, we're doing at least an ounce of that, and we're only going to get stronger. We're only going to get better. Now, my team, with that said, knows who deserves our time now. That's a tough thing to say, but I hope you understand why I'm saying that. To all of you, work with people who deserve your time. These people on my downline tonight are probably the ones that are on this call. Those are the people that I'm going to choose to work with because they've invested in their business tonight. And those that I probably communicate regularly with, those are the people that I'm investing in. Those are the coachable, teachable, and trainable people. Now, before we wrap up, we have about 5 or 6 minutes, and we want to do our best to respect your time tonight, being this is a 1-hour call. There were a couple last little problems that people were running into in the industry, and I just want to touch on very, very quickly just those last few little points, just even from some of the messages that we're getting. One of them was on Amazon, and so I want to touch on that really quickly. As I mentioned, when Jarrod and I became very successful at the very beginning, as I mentioned, we said we went Sapphire in less than 6 weeks. How did we do that? Now, most people are probably thinking, well, you guys are doctors, you guys have a big patient base, you have a clinic where you guys can successfully implement this. I want to say to you, sometimes being a doctor of chiropractic is a hindrance to this business. One, because our state board has certain rules and regulations about these things. And two, we have to keep a very professional doctor-patient relationship. And so we can't be selling things on the side to them just as motivation to be growing another business. So our business, for the most part, is mostly retail. And so yes, we sell a lot of Organo product in our office, and that's probably where our patients fit into this. But a majority of this is actually friends, family, people that we know from church, all sorts of different groups of people. But one of the things that we offered to our patients was the ability to get an account if they wanted to purchase at wholesale. And how that even came about was we were starting to sample patients. Patients were loving the product, but what does everyone want to do when they get a product? They want to pay the cheapest amount possible. So what would happen is they would sample it and they would love it. And one of our key phrases when somebody samples a cup of coffee and they love it, we say, great. Now get a box and do a 30-day challenge. Drink exclusively Organo for 30 days and see how you do. I would say, again, 99% of the people can't go back to their old coffee after they've done this for 30 days exclusively. And so, but what was happening is they would come back in and start telling us how horrible they felt after drinking Organo. And we said, well, that's strange. You've had all this success. I don't understand why you're not having success anymore. Well, after talking to a handful of patients, what we realized is they actually admitted to us that they wanted to buy it at cost without getting an account, because they didn't know they actually could get an account at this point. They wanted to get it cheaper than what we were selling it for in our office, is basically what they were saying. So they went to Amazon. Now, that's a big problem because, as you know, there is counterfeit product on Amazon. There's expired product on Amazon. There's tampered with product. I tell everybody, and let this be a message for everyone, and you can share this with people too. Don't ever, ever, if there's a place you want to save money on, don't ever do it with your health. You don't ever want to buy healthcare products on Amazon. Buy everything else on Amazon, but don't ever buy anything health product-wise. And so when we let patients know, basically, you're not getting the same product as if you were getting it from our store or from Organo directly. We then let them know how they could get an account. The blessing with Organo is normally products like this have to only be sold in healthcare practitioners' offices, and we're the only ones that can get a discount. But Organo said you don't have to be a healthcare practitioner to buy this. And so we let patients know, if you want to get it at cost, go ahead and get your own account. That blesses so many people. It blesses them financially. It blesses us financially. They get a better product. It was the right thing to do is what we thought. And so I hope that can actually help you if people have unfortunately undercut you in some way and started getting their product on Amazon. So I would say have standard answers to questions that you come up with. When somebody confronts you about the sugar, boom, after what Jarrod shared tonight, you now have a response to that. If somebody confronts you about, well, I can get this cheaper on Amazon, now you have an answer to that. People don't do well with that product, and it's the expense of your health. Your health is an investment, not an expense, but if you don't invest in it, it's going to become an expense. Don't cheap out on your health by buying something on Amazon. All sorts of standard solutions tonight to many problems that many of us are facing in the industry. And so with that, I have one last thing to say. Do you have anything to wrap up the call?
I would just like to thank Organo for the opportunity to share with everyone here tonight. It is quite an honor and a blessing to be able to do that. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Absolutely, thank you. We were honored. I have to say we were a little bit shocked. And this pushed Jarrod and I actually to change our mindset and realize we really are leaders in this industry. We weren't looking at ourselves at the same level as Dr. Bob and Casey Nielsen and Miss Nikki Idetta. Yes, granted, we're not diamonds yet, but we are leaders. And so thank you for recognizing that in us. And this just kind of pushed us a little bit outside of our comfort zone. And we were more than happy to do this call and very honored. So with that said, to respect your guys' time, I just want to leave you with this note. If you're successful in Organo, it's your fault. But if you fail in Organo, that's also your fault. So get the samples out. Follow up with these people that you sampled. Get yourself trained. Go to events. Listen to your mentors and be a problem solver. Find solutions for people and you will see yourself and your business grow. This is Dr. Jarrod and Dr. Melissa reporting from Rochester, Minnesota. We are so honored to be on this call with you tonight. We hope that you were able to glean some wisdom, and the key is to start implementing it. So remember, it's easy, it's simple, it's Organo. Thank you. Have a great night.
Good night, everyone.